Hello, guys, and welcome to DeFi Talks, where we talk anything and everything Web3. I'm Sharif, and this is your co-host, Jake.
Hey guys.
Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of conferences and why you should definitely find a conference to go to if you're new in the Web3 space. I've been to one, and I'm going to another one, and I'm sure my co-host, I'm sure Jake has also been to one. Jake, do you remember your first conference? Where was it? What did you do? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a huge fan of conferences. I'm in love with them. But I technically went to my first crypto conference just this year, earlier this spring. A little group of us from Philly went down to be in Miami during Bitcoin Miami. Technically, only one person in the group, not including me, actually went to Bitcoin 2022, but we went to tons of other events. There's an altcoin conference down there that was created as a little bit of a meme to make some mockery of Bitcoin Miami. It's actually called Shitcoin, and that was the second annual. And that was a 2-day event with like 75 speakers and a totally built out event. It was really, really great. So that was the focus. And then after that, also was able to go to the Solana event. They had a 6-day hackathon and 300 teams and a huge facility that they were running. I saw Tim Tebow there. Apparently Gary Vaynerchuk was there the day before. And then a bunch of after parties that were all like smaller, either evening or afternoon events. But like we went to Tron's after party, super rare. I didn't go, but some other people went to Kendana. So sort of like a many smaller events all consolidated in one, and the whole world seems to converge on Miami about crypto all around Bitcoin Miami. So that's my experience, and it was really, really awesome. And I can't wait to continue to go to crypto conferences. Sharif, I know that you had a similar sort of like opening experience last year. What did you get up to last fall?
So I've been to East Denver, and I'm going to another one in Florida. I'm not going to say what, but so yeah, I went to East Denver. That was a couple of months ago. That was my first crypto conference. I watch a lot of crypto related content, a lot of tech related content. So it was pretty surprising to hear people that I've heard online in person. Um, I didn't really expect what I found. Like when I went into when I went into the conference, I thought it was going to be very different. I didn't expect like friendly energy, nice people, the sense of community that I got there, and ever since then, I've really been trying to go to more conferences. I'm going to another one in July in Philadelphia. That's going to be like launching for the first time. I'm really excited about that. But that's pretty much my history with with crypto related conferences. Um,
Yeah.
so so tell me, Jake, I'm curious to know why did you choose to go to the altcoin conference instead of the Bitcoin conference?
Great question. Um, Attaching this to sort of the one of the first themes of this conference episode is just that like we have a local grassroots community here in Philly and that I trust and believe in. And a part of like going to a conference is like exploring this new sort of global or international community where all these people come from all around. And I specifically did not attend Bitcoin because I got guidance from the local community here. And people said, like Bitcoin 2022 is going to be more for beginners. It's going to be about mining. It's going to be about policy and some of these people that get paid 6 figures to talk, but it's not really for people who are in the space. It's definitely not for developers. It's not really for the experts. And I was right. And that was confirmed, at least from my findings and my experience and with the people that I talked to. So that's why I avoided Bitcoin. And it's nothing bad against Bitcoin. There was just other interests in other areas that I was interested in. And it turned out really, really nice. What about you? Did you
Yeah, I
find?
think people.
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you
Go ahead.
off. I just think some people should open their minds to other currencies, other projects. There's a lot of bad projects out there, but the truth is these different chains can provide a lot of utility that Bitcoin can't. So just just wanted to like let people know that these tools are they can make your life better. So give them a try. Don't limit yourself to one tool. And don't be afraid of actually experimenting with different things, because you might find a community for yourself. You might have a great time. You might learn something. Uh, yeah, sorry about that. What were you going to say, Jake?
No, you're good. I mean, it's that's really what it's all about is like figuring out the place where you belong at a conference, and maybe even exploring and going to a bigger layer one. Like Cardano has its own event, Solana has its own events, and that's the same. What we're really talking about is like the choice of attending a Bitcoin focused event or other things. And like look at the difference between ETH Denver and Bitcoin, right? There's no development of Bitcoin for the most part. And what is ETH Denver? It's primarily a developer conference. So there's a massive difference in the community. But the communities are valuable, one and the same. I think that's the focus here, is like one of the benefits of going to a conference, whether you're just exploring that space or you're dedicated and truly believe in that direction within crypto, like having that community from the conference and being able to keep in touch with people who may be from a different continent and being able to learn from them and understand that, like, hey, one of the things Sharif, you and I were talking about is like meeting the community, whether it's Bitcoin or some other altcoin. Everybody feels like, hey, they're a small player. They feel new, even if they're in for 5-6 years. They're like, man, I wish I had gotten in early. Like everyone kind of shares this interesting imposter syndrome, and it's quite relieving and nice to talk to other people. It's like, wow, like not. I don't see a lot of egos in the space and things like that. Was it like that at Denver too?
It really was. It definitely was. So to touch on that, just a moment, sorry. To touch on that, like imposter syndrome is something that a lot of people in tech have to deal with because of the sometimes complexity of the subjects that you work with or that you encounter every day. It's a lot of information, and you're constantly being bombarded with new products and new projects and new things, and it feels overwhelming sometimes. So it makes sense why people would have that sense of imposter syndrome. But the truth is you are early. You're gonna keep being early because tech is constantly evolving. So as long as you're open-minded to new things, you will constantly be able to to say that you're early, and you'll be able to catch different waves and trends. It's just really about accepting that you don't know everything and that you have to keep learning every day in order to succeed in this space. It's just you need to have a learner mindset. Um, but to answer your question, Jake, it really was like that in Eat Denver. I really enjoyed my time a lot over there. I had met a lot of people that I never expected I would see. There were as many women as there were men. There were as many old people as there were young people. It was people from all over the world, developers, users. It, it was a special experience because it felt like it united a lot of different people from all different walks of life to build something together or to learn something together, and it was really exciting. I just hope that in the future we have more of these conferences, because I feel like they would really help improve the direction of tech. And the more people that participate, the better things get. I really believe that. So, yeah, just Eat Denver was great. I loved it. I enjoyed every day of it.
Yeah, conferences are
So I
amazing.
want to ask you.
Yeah,
I want to ask you a question.
yeah, go ahead.
What did you take away from your experience in the altcoin conference?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of takeaways. I think one of the things we're talking about right now is the community aspect, and one thing that I love to touch on, and within that too, is like the real friendships, and that have led to like maybe other people inviting me to their Discord servers for their projects or their Telegrams with other groups, and like really solidified friendships where like you meet somebody for a day, you might talk to them 3-4 times, but that experience that you go through together and those memories that you have become unique. And for example, I messaged somebody today, and I like acknowledged something that happened at the conference that only people would remember who were there. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I remember you." And like, "Hey, what's up? What's good?" And we're just, we're messaging like it's day 2 of the conference, but we have this ability to like be real crypto friends and then keep in touch over Discord and Telegram. So that's one huge takeaway is like, true new crypto friends that are sustained. And then one of the other things I think I'm excited to talk about from the value and the reason and incentive to go to conferences is the opportunity afterwards that it comes from. And from meeting these people, I'm so excited to keep in touch with their projects and then like reunite at other conferences. I'm already asking them like, "Hey, are you going to NYC NFT in June?" and things like that. We got Drew going down to permissionless in a couple of weeks. We know there are people going. So like, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" And maybe like figuring out what their talk is about and maybe being able to help them. But yeah, just being able to keep in touch with these people and hearing what they're up to. You can be on the pulse of like what their project is doing or what they're interested in. Like what NFT whitelists are coming out. I heard that phrase so much at Shitcoin. It was like, oh, everybody was so excited to find a new project that had a whitelist coming out, which means basically like you're guaranteed on the initial mint. So a lot of these projects mint 5,000 or 10,000 NFTs, and the waiting list the whitelist will max out, and you can't actually get one of the original mints. That's how popular it might
Yeah,
be. So like this opportunity,
there is a lot of community driven opportunity. So to go with that, recently, this is just a crazy story, and I know that you have a story that matches this and actually outdoes it. But one of my friends, a couple of days ago, he was at ETH Denver, and he ran across a project that was just starting up fresh, and he signed up to their list. So they had a list on Twitter where you can go and connect your Ethereum name service to, and you'll just kind of be put into this like waiting list. And at the end of the like when the project was launching, they minted a token and they airdropped it to everybody that was there at ETH Denver, and he made $5,000 off of just like signing his signing a Twitter thread with his Ethereum name service. No effort. And this is not the only story. There were like many stories similar to this where people got an NFT that just jumped up in price, or people signed up and they got that airdrop and they made some money, or people met somebody that was able to help them in their business and help them maybe monetize things or introduce them to other business people. So the opportunity there was just outstanding. I have no doubt in my mind that ETH Denver and all these other conferences are responsible for spawning so many interesting projects, so many like good investments. So yeah, like that is just incredible to me. How somebody could just click on a Twitter thread and make 5,000. I know that you also won something at the conference. What a coincidence! How does that happen? Can you please tell us the story?
Yeah, it was it was pretty crazy. Thanks for bringing that up. And to go right off of what you just talked about the NFT thing, I think that happened for people in our group. I know I can't remember the name of it, but that little NFT like sort of stuffed animal looking thing from ETH Denver. It's like the ETH Denver mascot, whatever that is. They did a bunch of NFTs and then gave out physical stuffed animals that matched those NFTs. And I think they went for a couple thousand and they were given out. I'm pretty sure Mike got one. But yeah, in Miami at Shitcoin, there was this guy named Bitcoin Ben. You should check out his YouTube channel. He's like middle-aged guy. He's a retired truck driver, and he's now rebranded and taken his whole career all in on Bitcoin. And he's named Bitcoin Ben. And when he speaks at conferences, he tells the organizers, like, listen, everybody who's in the room after I speak, I'm giving out to some one random lucky person $1,000 in Bitcoin. And so he has everybody rush in and they're like, oh, I don't want to miss this. He makes a big announcement, $1,000 free Bitcoin. And then he gets everybody to put their name in this bucket. And then you listen to his talk and he's a good speaker. And at the end, he picks a name out. And so I was one of the first people to put my name in the bucket because he said it in a way like a good salesman with urgency. Like you need to put your name in or you're missing the boat. And that was at the beginning of the talks. Good strategy. Everybody rushed over to his area. And I grabbed the first thing I could and then a Sharpie. And it was like this big merch sticker. And I wrote my name, Jake V, on the back. I threw it in, and I was at the bottom of the pile for sure. But then everybody else they had more time to think about it and they just put in business cards. So that big fat merch sticker that I had thrown in kind of like was the biggest thing in there. And then at the end, Bitcoin Ben says, all right, Mr. Bozak, he calls up Ken Bozak, who I'm pretty sure is from this area. He's got the Love Philly tattoo on his arm. And he reaches in and picks for Bitcoin Ben. He doesn't give a fuck. He just reaches in and grabs something and pulls it out. And I see it. I'm like, damn, that's that sticker. And he's like, Jake V. And he makes me go up on stage. And he's like, yep. So what are you going to do? And then he pulls out $1,000 in cash in his front shirt pocket. And he's like, you can take this cash right now, or you can just take the Bitcoin. Like that was the plan. And I kind of got the crowd involved. He gave me the mic. I was like, what should we do? And then the crowd had a pretty good reaction to Bitcoin. So that was what I wanted to do anyway. The cash is an easy choice. A lot of people might just sell. So if you get free
That's incredible,
crypto,
man.
yeah,
That's incredible. Are you up or down?
So that's a really good point. So what I did was I took that money and I put it right in a cold storage wallet because I want to be able to tell that story year after year. My plan is not to sell that coin, right? And use it as a mile marker for that story. I'm pretty sure it's down, especially with $39,000 Bitcoin now. Like we've been trying to hold at 40K, but I don't think we will. But I'm pretty sure it was like 44. I'm down like 10 to 15% on that.
That's all right. I mean, the market is very not like good right now, but that makes sense. There's been a lot happening and the world is in a pretty chaotic place right now.
Yep.
But it's just incredible. That's such a cool story. I hope that someday I get to win something for free. I haven't been able to win anything yet.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Like,
it's all on camera too. It was streamed live on Twitter, and I have the link in the top.
Yeah, we should probably link that.
I'll link it with the timestamp. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, we should probably link that. That's such a cool,
let's talk about that real quick. I think it's a cool opportunity to insert some like present day news and some thought leadership here. But like we just kind of made a really interesting point about how Bitcoin has been in a little bit of a precarious place. And technically we've been in a down market for about 6 months since the high in late November, middle November, maybe 5-6 months. But yeah, why don't you talk about that? Just like the sentiment and why like you and I so casually are like, yeah, Bitcoin's down 10, 15%. Whereas like a lot of people, especially if they've only been paying attention for a few months or maybe even just a few weeks, they might just see Bitcoin going down into the 30s now and be like, oh shit, what's happening? And thinking the sky is falling. But there's really like some bigger macroscopic things at play with crypto alone. Like we had the halving cycle and now we're kind of through it, waiting for the next one. That's not going to happen for 2 years. We have war. We have things like Bitcoin kind of like following suit with the stock market more than ever before. It's kind of like more correlated to typical New York Stock Exchange than ever before. So
what makes sense?
What do you think? Yeah. Why don't you? What's your mindset on all that, Sharif?
Well, I mean, so not to get too political, but Bitcoin is like an instrument that we use to move money around in most cases or store money. So right now people are selling because they want to be able to afford things. A lot of people have gone poor over this war, or a lot of people have also gone poor because of the crashes in the stock market. So they have to dig into their savings or their Bitcoin. Also, it had no business being that high, in my opinion. Now you could probably argue with this, but I don't think it has any business being that high. It's a great product. It's an amazing piece of technology. It has a lot of potential and it has utility, and a lot of people are picking it up now. Recently, both Walmart and I think McDonald's both said that they'll be taking payments through the Lightning Network, which uses obviously Bitcoin. So this product has been overhyped for the last year or so. It's a great product, but people shouldn't be putting in as much as they have been, in my honest opinion. And it makes sense that it's going down, because if you look at everything else, that's the trend right now. Everything is losing value. And personally, as a developer, I'm not that interested in prices. I'm casual about it because I've seen this for the last 10 years now. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And that's what I expect every stock to do. That's what everybody should expect every stock to do. There's some things that can maintain value for a long period of time, maybe like houses. I don't know, things that you can actually like physically rely on in the in the real world. But as of now, Bitcoin still has some things that it needs to get figured out. Like, just because we have wide adoption and legal adoption in certain countries doesn't mean that the infrastructure can actually handle uh, it can't handle people using it at the rate that people have been using it. And just like you said, there's been the halving of the mining rewards, which always put a real dent in the market. But besides that, I think it's where it should be, and I think it should keep going lower, to be honest. What about you? What do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that, especially as you close your thought. Just to requote, I think it's going lower. I do too, and I also think that I've like garnered this attitude because of the people who I think are more experienced than me, more involved than me, and are smarter than me in crypto. If if you're listening to people who are working on projects and actually around, they were probably here when things went into true crypto winter after 2017's last cycle pop. And you just remember like how long it takes to get back into a time when people are ready to be truly bullish about crypto again. um, there's only been 3 cycles before. What we're talking about, guys, let's just explain it really quickly. So at the very beginning, block one of Bitcoin, there was this plan that every 200,000 blocks, or about, because there is a very predictable timing of every block with Bitcoin because of how few blocks can be processed at a time. It's about every 4 years. You have this moment where the rewards are cut in half. And people would say, like, oh, well, isn't that bad? Well, it's like, yeah, that is bad. But here's what happens. There's like this psychological switcheroo where people, they see it as a big milestone for Bitcoin. What it really means is that there's more miners, there's more activity, and like, oh, it's like, oh, they passed the halving cycle. Oh, shit. And so also what's going on is that people like a year ago, 6 months ago, as Mike always talks about, have been buying more miners and getting in. And there's always like these explosions at times where it could, like, that there's usually the halving indicator comes along with a bull run right after it. And that's what we've seen exactly to a T every 4 years from 2013, 2017. And we just had our last one in like summer 2020 into 2017 or 2022, 2021, excuse me. So the next predictable one is summer 2024 or so. So that's one of the elements here, is that like a lot of people think it's like we gotta kind of have to sit around and wait. There's a whole lot of other things that you said, Sharif, that are spot on. I love to add to that. Like, just you said, I don't think it should have gone that high. That's exactly right. Like all the stimulus money from COVID,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like there's all this
I was not a fan of
you
all that.
know,
I
everybody's
wasn't a
got
fan.
even at the microscopic petri dish level, everybody's got like 3 4 government checks for nothing. What are you gonna do? Oh, maybe we'll put it in crypto, like you
I
have
mean,
things
so the
like
truth
that.
is some people needed that money. It's not like some people actually needed that money. This was a very difficult time for the whole world. But when you give a lot of people that might not actually need the money just an extra couple thousand, then it's clear that they're going to take it and probably invest it into something if they're actually financially aware. And recently, Bitcoin keeps getting more and more popular. It's just more common to hear about it in just outside in the wild. You can hear people, like just random people talking about it. You can see posters, you can see advertising, marketing. It's just become so widely adopted that it just makes sense this is happening. And it makes sense why people dumped so much money into the crypto market. And it makes sense why it got so expensive, and now why it's losing value, because the people that made money, they're selling. They want to make that profit. They want to actually make that profit. I think Mike tells us this a lot, and it's that the the people that sell first sell best. And anybody that's currently holding on to these assets is not really making a smart move unless it's like what you said, you're keeping it just to record when you actually got the reward, and it's a special thing, right? But if you're putting money into this right now, don't expect to be making any, because people are trying to like actually sell and get their cash worth. And there's taxes, and then there's the regulation with Biden's President Biden's what was it called? He like pass a law recently? I'm not sure if you know about this, Jake.
I know there was conversation about regulation and it was positive sentiment. I'm not exactly sure what the Biden law was, but yeah, just to make a comment about like, when people when you hodl all the way down, when you hold your crypto into nothing, then you were basically exit liquidity for someone else, and you held and you basically took your money and gave it to somebody else at a point where like they made money on that most likely, and then
Mhm.
you gave it away because you got excited or made a poorly timed bet. And like historically what really happens is everybody's watching all this crypto go up and they think it'll go to the moon, and they got interested a couple months ago and they put money in, and it's like, oh shit, they didn't realize where they were in the cycle. It's like, man,
Yeah.
you showed up at 11:30, the music is almost over. And everybody
Well,
with the Ferraris has left.
that's really true. That is really true. I'm gonna link that video too, because that's a very good video. When it comes to investing in crypto, there's just like one thing that I want to mention as a developer, as somebody that doesn't really invest that much. Um, if you're going to be investing in something, just make sure that you have use for it, so that if it does go down in price, you're not stuck with a bunch of Bitcoin that you can't really do anything with, because if you sell, then you're losing a lot of money. If you buy something with utility and something that can be used in ways other than just buying and selling, making profit, then you're putting yourself in a pretty safe position. Firstly, because the investment that you're making is a smart investment because other people are using it just like you are. And secondly, because you're making the product better by investing in it. Um, a lot of people, they'll see something like Shiba Inu and think, well, that's it. That's my chance to make a lot of money. It's a penny stock. It's practically worth nothing. I can dump $20 in it a month until I get rich. And then what they don't realize is, well, that $20 a month is being siphoned out into someone else's pocket programmatically. So be careful. Read about what you invest in, and don't just make these decisions on a whim or because you saw that Bitcoin went over 40,000 today. That doesn't have any action. There's no correlation between the price of an asset and like its ability to survive in a market. Um, and on top of that, just remember that the Web3 community and the DeFi community is a lot more than just stocks and coins and money. There's a lot more to be seen. We were just talking about this, Jake. The conferences that we've been to, the community events that we go to every week, we've met so many different people. We've hanged out personally outside of work. We've worked with each other. We've done a lot of different things that we would have never done if we didn't go into this community and we weren't completely embraced by this community. So don't have that single-minded view about Web3 and crypto, because it's a lot more than just money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm glad that you're tying it back to the conference focus because we got a few current updates and some extra ideas in there. But I think there's one final thing that we'd love to talk about within conferences and the reason to go. We talked about community, we talked about opportunity. And the next thing is you typically walk out of there with like at least one, two, three, like pretty big new epiphanies. You got a new idea, you learned something from one of the speakers, you got some super alpha or some new strategy from somebody that you talked to, maybe a new developer. And I guess I'll start with my example. One of the things that I think was a focal point at Shitcoin, and one of the things that I think was also talked about at Bitcoin. I watched all the videos afterwards, but essentially any blockchain project, you have typically, if it's done properly, a public ledger and you can see everything, every transaction into the history of time. You can see everything that ever happened. It's on the blockchain. And there's plenty of reasons why that's great. That's why this boom is happening. But there's also a few concerns with that. For example, if you're like a person who's very individually wealthy, if you're like a politics fund and you have to sort of be very strategic, if you're like, a government body, if you're a bank, there's a lot of reasons why you might not want all of your transactions to be public. Well, you might then be interested in a project like Monero. That was a big conversation at Shitcoin. One of the best talks, and I think we need to integrate this into DeFi Philly because we're going to end up talking
I
about
mine Monero. I mine Monero.
that.
I
Good.
invest in
So
Monero.
here,
It's a
so
good project.
yeah, that, and I'm glad you say that. I actually didn't even know that. That's almost like we planned that, but I had no clue you did that. But I think it's a good call, and here's why. So one of the best takeaways from Shitcoin, they did this debate. They did Bitcoin versus a shitcoin, and they used the Monero difference in the privacy aspects between that and Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is a all 100% public ledger. You can see every transaction, but Monero has a privacy element such that it's not the same. And I don't understand it thoroughly enough to explain it like you could, Sharif, but that was a big education point for me from there. And then you can have also strategies like, okay, well, if Monero has a privacy element, you could just buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin with Monero and then move that Bitcoin around. And because it came from a Monero wallet, a Monero sort of like origin in the transactions, it kind of adds a privacy element to that Bitcoin and some really interesting thinking from there. So I just wanted to talk about that. What do you think about Monero, Sharif?
So the reason I chose Monero, the reason I'm really interested in that project particularly is because just like Cash, you should be able to have a public and a private um, pool of money. So I don't want everybody sometimes to know how much I have or what I'm saving for, what the name of the pot is, or who I'm sending money to. And it's not because of anything illegal or because of anything immoral, but privacy is part of life. And sometimes we want to do things that surprise our partner. Sometimes we want to save money for an investment or for a project, and we don't want people to know. Sometimes we want to make sure not to that we don't get hurt. Some people they get stalked and they get basically hunted down because they have a lot of crypto in their wallet. So if somebody can connect the person to the wallet, then well, that person is now in trouble because they're a target immediately for hacks, for criminal activity, maybe for police. So I like being able to have both that public and that private money that I can just save for myself and not tell people about, and also the public money that I can use for transactions. So it's about having the options. You have options with cash. You have options when you go to the store. You could put that money in a bank account. You can hide it in your house. You can pay someone without anybody else knowing. And that's a blessing that cash provides. That's a blessing that Monero can also provide. I do have a little bit of concerns in terms of it could be used by really rich people to try to duck taxes, for example, which wouldn't be that great because, well, everybody else has to pay their taxes. But everything could be used for negative and positive reasons. That's a bit of a rant about Monero, but I think to tie this back to conferences, you go to a conference and you leave with an education. You leave knowing something that you didn't know. You leave understanding something on a much deeper level than before. And that is just priceless because that information you could use to get clients or help people or set up a business or manage your money. There's so much things you could do with the information that you leave with from these conferences. Is there anything else you want to end on, Jake? Because I also want to plug DeFi Philly.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Some of the reasons why people might come for not only content and education to DeFi Philly, but whatever, remind people what it's all about, maybe some of the opportunities they might find some of it, some of the value in the community. We do meetups all the time. We have a Discord server. There's a lot of reasons to come out on July 8th and be a part of DeFi Philly. What do you think about that, Sharif?
So DeFi Philly is going to be the first big DeFi event in Philadelphia. This is going to give us a new place in the Northeast where people can come and make projects together, meet each other, uh, start businesses, make good connections, get an education, find friends, like anything, honestly. So we're running a 1 day conference, and then next year it's going to be like multiple days. Um, if you want to support this, if you want to maybe help us get this off the grounds and help us just provide a new place for people to get an education, for people to meet each other, then come to the event and share your experience. We'd be happy to have you. Uh, we'll be leaving links down below to the website just in case you guys want to check it out. But even if you're not around the Northeast, even if you're not in the United States, just go on the Meetup app and look for conferences, look for events, look for meetups. The amount of value you can get from these things is just uncomparable to anything else. For free, you can get what you might need an education for. And I honestly believe that because it's happened to me. So get on the Meetup app, check the link down below if you're in or near Philly. And lastly, I just want to close by mentioning our names again. I'm Sharif. This is Jake. We're with DeFi Philly, but this podcast is called DeFi Talks. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this, please leave a like, a comment, and share it with your friends. It would really help us.